On Wednesday's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Mr. Steele Roden and your boy Big Flip Livingstone, it is time to take a deep look into the second round playoff series X factors, players, hold lines, maybe even units of power play power that can take a team over the top. That will be the difference in the second round. We're breaking it all down on today's episode, including DFS targets for Wednesday night, and of course, our lock of the night bets, baby. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back inside the lab, everybody. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I will be here every single day to hold your hand through everything that you need to know about the hockey world when it comes to fantasy betting, DFS targets, everything you need to know to stack that paper, baby. We are here. And on today's episode, talking about the X factors on teams that could be the difference maker in these playoff series, players that are really going to be making the difference and taking these teams over the top. Of course, Wednesday's DFS targets, Wednesday's locks of the night. We got you covered. Steele, these players, these groups, maybe we're taking a look at a whole line. You know I like to do that. That could be an X factor too, pal. I'm unsure where you're looking. I'm unsure where you want to start. But I do know this. We're pretty good at pegging these X factors. We're pretty good at talking about the players that are going to make these differences and the ones you need to be taking a look at for bets. So make sure you're tapped in, making us your first listen every day, and smashing that subscribe button. My friend, my co-host, where would you like to start, good sir?
Well, let's start with the New York Rangers and Carolina Hurricanes series because I think that one to me is very interesting. It looks like Frederik Andersen is not going to be ready for the second round of the playoffs. Still dealing with that lower body injury. So I think for the Hurricanes, Antti Raanta needs to be the X factor. He was 3-2-0 in the first round with a .920 save percentage. He had some great stats. He played great and really won them that series against the Boston Bruins. So I think for the Hurricanes, if he can continue that, he can be a great X factor. And for the Rangers, I'm looking at Artemi Panarin, 3 goals, 7 points in the first round. I think heading against the Carolina Hurricanes, just continue that. Shoot the puck every single time you have an opportunity. If he continues to shoot the puck on net, good things are going to happen.
Hey, everything that we saw in terms of what Antti Raanta was able to do in the first round, even though he got hurt and came back, these are all great things, right? We know this. But without Frederik Andersen, I don't think it really matters who is the second string goalie. They have to step up and be that X factor, Steele. You're 100% right, because without them, without Raanta, who are they going to with a third stringer? It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be something that they want to do. And Panarin, beauty. My X factor for the New York Rangers, Steele, Adam Fox. I really know that you've talked a lot about Adam Fox and his game, and for good reason. I think if this guy can have a solid series for the Rangers, and I don't mean just defensively, because we know that's not really not a huge part of his game, but that's only half of his game. Yeah. This guy can be an offensive juggernaut, and if he's able to chip in on that power play and really make that unit click, I'm calling out Adam Fox as that X factor for the Blue Shirts. And if I'm picking one for the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm going with one that was probably an X factor in the first round, in Vincent Trocheck. And I think that if they can get that depth scoring in addition to the top line getting going, man, those are going to be two kind of immovable objects there. Maybe we go 7 games in that series, Steele.
Yeah, I really like the series. Every single series is going to be great to watch, but I'm really looking forward to this one because I've been so high on the New York Rangers the last 2 years. Yeah. But let's jump over to the other series in the Eastern Conference. The Florida Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. For my X factors, it's very, very simple. I think Jonathan Huberdeau needs to be a lot better. 1 goal, 3 points in the first round in 6 games. If he can't get going, I'm not sure they get past the Tampa Bay Lightning because he's a huge part of that team. And especially going and from what we saw in the battle last year against Tampa Bay, he needs to be a lot better in the second round, especially going up against the back-to-back champions. And then for the Lightning, I think the X factor can be Corey Perry. I thought he had an absolutely fantastic series in the first round against the Maple Leafs. 2 goals in that series. He did everything that his coach wanted him to do. Go park yourself right in front of the net, get in people's face, start some, instigate some fights. And I think he did a great job at that. So I think he can continue that going against the Florida Panthers.
It's those kinds of performances and those kinds of players that absolutely become a thorn in the side of the opposition. And it changes the way that they have to play, Steele, because you right now are not exactly, game planning to go and face Corey Perry. But if he starts to make a ruckus, chip in with goals, fight, big hits, you immediately now have to start to respect that line. And that's kind of what changes the tide of some of these games and some of these series. I absolutely love that you're looking at Corey Perry. And my X factor for the Tampa Bay Lightning might be more of a simple one. It's Andrei Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he has to continue. And hey, he wasn't very good in the first round. He was great in the moments that they needed him.
Yeah.
But if he can even improve a little bit, again, I see this going 7 games. He is the X factor, in my opinion, in the entire series. I'm not even looking at another player because, honestly, if he doesn't show up, Steele, and Huberdeau does, this series might be over quicker than most are expecting. And that's only because that Florida Panthers team is so good.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be better going into this second round. Yeah. It doesn't look like Point's going to be able to go for the second round as well, so that kind of hurts their team.
Huge.
So he definitely needs to be a lot better against this Florida Panthers team, especially from what, obviously against the Washington Capitals wasn't their best series, but they still got the win, and they're going to be a lot better against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So let's go from the Battle of Florida over to the Battle of Alberta.
Nice.
For the Edmonton Oilers, this X factor, it really depends on how he plays this game, how he plays this series. But I'm looking at Zach Kassian, and I think that's a big guy that really can stand out in this series. Yeah. We know this is going to be a dogfight. We know it's going to be physical, and we know that Matthew Tkachuk gets under the skin of Zach Kassian, so he can't be so hot-headed and lose his mind in those moments. He needs to be smart. Obviously still play your game, but be smart. Don't attack the guy when the play is still going. You can't hurt your team. You can't take these kind of penalties. So I think for the Oilers, Zach Kassian really needs to be smart. And if he is smart, he can be an X factor. And it's the same thing for Matthew Tkachuk on the other side. He only had 1 goal in the first round against the Dallas Stars. So he needs to do a lot better. Yeah. Only 16 shots. He needs to shoot the puck more. He still had 6 points, don't get me wrong, but he needs to shoot the puck more. He's a goal scorer, and we know he's a goal scorer. And he, too, also needs to be smart. Play your game, but be smart.
Right at the top of my list for the Calgary Flames X Factor, Matthew Tkachuk, Ching. That's exactly. There's nothing need to be said other than what you just said. So I'm going to leave it at that because also look at what happens when he did score. Huge moment in that game. And, 1 goal isn't going to cut it. You mentioned his 5 assists. I think if he pops even a couple more this round, this could really tip the favor in the angle of the Calgary Flames. Wanted to mention something super quick to you, though, because you made a mention about Zach Kassian, and there was a prop bet that I noticed today that I have to wager on, I think, after now discussing this. 1.5 fights in the series, Steele. Over 1.5 fights seems like a very safe bet, in my opinion. That odd seems like it could easily be higher. They had 3 fights in the previous series for Calgary. I could see Zach Kassian and Matthew Tkachuk going at 1. I could see Lucic and Kassian going at least 1 or 2. So just hearing this, I'm a sprinkle on that. That's not my pick for tonight, but that is a good pick if you want to tap into that one. Anyway, definitely Matthew Tkachuk. In my opinion, though, Steele, Edmonton Oilers, it's got to be Darnell Nurse. It has to be their number 1 D-man doing something differently on the blue line because we know that the Edmonton Oilers have Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. We know this. We know, saying they're an X factor, I think is a cop-out because we know they have to be great. But if Darnell Nurse doesn't do something to really anchor that blue line, I'm concerned if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan because I really do think this is Calgary's series to lose. We talked about that already. But I'm going with Darnell Nurse, who is a beast on the blue line. But if he keeps taking those boneheaded 1-game suspensions like he did against Philip Deneau, he better check out. But what you better check out, it's Rock Auto. Steele, You know I love to talk about me some Rock Auto. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Don't stand in line and seemingly intimidating question about parts when you can head to the family-owned business of rockauto.com. Save time and money with Rock Auto. Don't choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more on some of the parts from a chain dealership when you can come to Rock Auto, serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto has reliably low prices for every single customer, and they have everything you need from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even a new selection of carpets. They cater to do-it-yourselfers, and they will help you discover all the car parts you need at rockauto.com. They will help you. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us section, so they know that we sent you. And I mean Steele and I sending you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. For your next listen, you have to check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like this podcast right here. So if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, and Flip and I appreciate all the love and support out there. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's dive right back in to the X factors of last and final series of the second round. The Colorado Avalanche taking on the St. Louis Blues. And for me, again, it's very simple for the Avalanche's X factor. I think it needs to be Nathan MacKinnon. I think he needs to prove to the fans, to the world, and to the league that he's not just a regular season and first round type of elite player. He needs to be a superstar every single time he touches the ice and every single round if he wants to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. So for me, MacKinnon, 5 goals. He was excellent in the first round against Nashville, 5 goals, 6 points. Continue that against the Blues. And for the Blues X factor, I think it needs to be Robert Thomas, because I didn't see enough out of him in the first round. Only 0 goals, 3 assists in 6 games. Like I said all year, this guy has an underrated shot. He needs to continue putting the puck on net. I know he's a facilitator. I know he's a playmaker. That's his game. But continue to put the puck on net, and good things are bound to happen. 14 shots to me is not good enough.
Definitely not good enough. And honestly, coming off the season that he had, Steele, I think a lot of people, including Blues fans and staff, were expecting and banking on him to be, a big-time contributor, and they got past the Wild anyway. So maybe this is his opportunity to kind of, silence some of those questions about postseason performance. We also know that he's in line for a big-time payday. So if he can also continue to maybe prove his worth by bouncing back in the second round here, definitely could see him as an X factor. But Steele, I'm looking at Vladimir Tarasenko, and I know he was so good in that first round, but he's going to need to be that good in the second round, because this is going to get tighter here. And all of a sudden, you thought it was going to be tough against the Minnesota Wild, which it was. How about now going up against this Colorado Avalanche crew? I'm calling on Vladimir Tarasenko as a St. Louis Blues backer for the Stanley Cup on a little future bet that I put a bunch of months back. You need him to go off. He's going to need to basically just go off. And I'm calling him as an X factor, Steele. And really, this is the Colorado Avalanche's series to lose. So I don't think I'm going to sit here and say, Jordan Binnington needs to be the X factor, because that's clear. He needs to steal whoever it is. Ville Husso, Jordan Binnington, it doesn't matter, because they're in tough. But man, are we in for some exciting hockey, my friends. And either way you slice it, this is where you want to be tuned in. Keep it locked right here to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Much love.
Yeah, a lot of exciting hockey in the next week and for the next month, actually, just, once we finally get up to the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's jump over to DFS selections.
Yep.
Again, keeping it real simple, because there's only 2 games a night now.
Yes, sir.
It's the second round of the playoffs, so slim pickings, if you want to say. But I'm looking at the New York Rangers for pretty much most of my my entire roster. Andrew Kopp, Mika Zibanejad, Alexis Lafreniere, Jacob Trouba, and Adam Fox. Potentially even Igor Shesterkin as well. So I'm kind of filling up my entire DFS with New York Rangers players. And I think those guys come out big in game one and take the win in game one.
I agree. And the only player I'd be looking at from the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's because he's been so good, is Jacob Slavin.
Yes.
And just the way that he plays, even if, and I will be backing the Rangers tonight in terms of a wager, he is the kind of player on the Carolina Hurricanes that he's just always involved. Even in games where they lose, he seems to always be chipping in with at least, an assist here, a couple of shots there. He's playing a lot of minutes, so you really can't go wrong. And at the end of the day, Steele, yes, for sure. I'm with you on I like the Rangers to continue that big time Game 7 energy. And I know Carolina won Game 7 as well, but not in the same fashion and not with the same kind of energy. They also really didn't have to put up with as much adversity in a series. And again, I know it was 7 games and but it didn't feel the same, did it? And it feels like that New York Rangers group is finally really clicking. So, yes, I'm going to calm down now, but Jacob Slavin would be my other option in that game.
Yeah, he was probably him as well as Tony DeAngelo leading the team in points for the Hurricanes, the two best players that entire series.
Yeah.
Their offense really does need to be a lot better because you can't solely rely on guys like Vincent Trocheck to take over a game. You need your stars, Sebastian Aho, Svechnikov. Tara Vinen was great, but you definitely need Aho and Svechnikov to get going. But let's, we're going to get over to our locks of the night very, very soon. But before we get there, I need to let every single person out there know about Built Bar. At Built Bar, they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy second. And, just for everyone out there, they have incredible new birthday cake puffs. Imagine dipping your finger into a plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that it was only 150 calories, 16 grams of protein. That is what it is like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. And if you haven't tried the puffs yet, I'll let you in on a little secret because that's what friends do. They are covered in 100% chocolate, and it's a chocolate-covered marshmallow protein bar. Yeah, you heard me. Absolutely delicious flavors and covered in 100% chocolate. Make every day your birthday with Built's birthday cake puffs. Built has taken the delicious experience of biting into a fresh slice of birthday cake, engraved it in 100% white chocolate, and sprinkled some sprinkles over them. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all platforms, which also includes YouTube. So like I say every single time, if you haven't subscribed or hit the follow button, please make sure you do so. Flip and I appreciate all the love and support out there. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Big time bets coming up right now. Locks of the night, only a single bet from each of us just because there's 2 games and, we're only feeling the lock of the night tonight. So I'll get us going. After the discussion we've had on this podcast or this episode today, I kind of feel like we have the same bet. I'm going with the New York Rangers on the money line against the Hurricanes for game 1. Like I said before, I think those stars on the Rangers come out in a big way. Zibanejad, Panarin, Fox, all those guys. That's why I'm taking them for DFS selections. I think they take the win in game 1 on the road.
I'm switching this one up a little bit, Steele, and I haven't done this one before. My lock of the night tonight is actually a parlay. I haven't done this before because it's not something people who have a lot of intelligence do, because you don't give a lock of the night pick that is multiple picks. That's just silly. But tonight, for the odds, I'm feeling it, Steele, and you're going to like it. I'm going to go Rangers on the money line, parlayed with the Calgary Flames on the money line, and I'm going to drop maybe a 50 or a 60-piece bet on this at least. This is a good spot for the Calgary Flames to really announce themselves as the better team in the Battle of Alberta, and I already love the spot for the Rangers. We talked about that. I love the momentum going there. Antti Raanta is a good goalie, not a great goalie. And we talked about this in the last round. Igor Shesterkin proved his quality, and he's going to prove it again in a big way tonight. Calgary Flames announced themselves as the best team in the province. Give me a little parlay action, Steele, for my lock of the night. That's the Rangers on the money lane, parlayed with the Calgary Flames on the money line. And I'm feeling that in a big, big way because we're going to get this loot.
I definitely was thinking about putting some money on the Flames as well, but I'm just not really quite sure how game one is going to, kind of pay or pan out. So
I respect that.
I had to stay away from that. I'm going to stick with the New York Rangers, but go for it, man. You've been absolutely great with the pick. So we'll see the next day if the parlay hits, and I might have to bow down to you again, but you've been absolutely killing it with the picks. So hopefully the parlay hits. And to everyone out there, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. You got to make your second listen Locked On NHL. From the first round matchups to each Stanley Cup kiss, Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like this podcast right here. So again, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, if you haven't hit the follow button, please do so right now, and you won't miss any of the episodes and content that Flip and I come out with up until, pretty much throughout the entire rest of the year, but especially for the rest of the playoffs. You don't want to miss out on any of the episodes. Thank you again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with your lock of the night, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.